I'm going to be just like you. The job, the family, the fucking big television, the washing machine, the car, the compact disc and electrical tin opener, good health, low cholesterol, dental insurance, mortgage, starter home, leisure wear, luggage, three-piece suite, DIY, game shows, junk food, children, walks in the park, 9 to 5, good at golf, washing the car, choice of sweaters, family Christmas, index pension, tax exemption, clearing the gutters, getting by, looking ahead, the day you die.
Hi, everybody. Reanimator at Man in Black Reviews here with another Film Club podcast. Joining me once again is Miziel.
Hello.
Say hi. And our co-host today is the Man in Black himself, the Man in Black. And for this podcast, we're going to be discussing Trainspotting, which came out in 1996, directed by Danny Boyle and starring Ewan McGregor, Robert Carlyle, Johnny Lee Miller, Ewan Bremner, and Kelly MacDonald.
We like the weird movies.
Yes, we do. Just wait till you see what we have in store next month. So, first question is last time. When did you guys first see this movie? You, Opal?
Let's see. I saw it years ago. It's been one of my favorite movies for a long time. Honestly, I can't remember when exactly I started, but I was probably fairly young when I saw it originally. 13, 14 maybe. Maybe 12. I liked weird movies when I was a kid, don't ask. But, yeah, so a few years ago. Once again, it was a movie that I watched with my mom, so.
What about you, Bill?
Last night. For this podcast.
Short, sweet, and to the point. Yeah, believe it or not, I actually didn't see it till about like earlier this year. I had this long list of essential movies that I just wanted to watch. Trainspotting was on there. I checked it out. I watched it. I loved it, and that was it. I mean, I did like a lot of it because it reminded me of a lot of movies that I've seen. Like, it reminds me of a bit of Requiem for a Dream. It reminds me a bit of like Guy Ritchie movies like Snatch for some reason. And it also kind of took me by surprise because it was directed by Danny Boyle, who before that I only knew him for Slumdog Millionaire, and I'm not the biggest fan of Slumdog Millionaire.
Aww. Boo.
I mean, it's not a bad movie. It's just that I just think it's overrated. But yeah, that's how I first came onto my radar. So what first took you by it? Like, what do you think separates it from other movies of this kind?
Well, I think it's sort of like Requiem for a Dream, but with a much more comedic twist to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a lot of things like a good cast, a good writing, so all of that combined. And the directing was really good. I'm a big Danny Boyle fan, so.
Yeah. You, Bill?
Coming after that, well, we said what sets it apart, first of all. Well, it captures a view of the time. Well, you said it was made in the 90s, so I don't know at all, because I was thinking it was like Vietnam era Britain.
It was made It was made in 1996. And the book it was based on was written in 1993.
Is it set in Nam era Britain?
I don't think so.
Actually,
I think it's set when it's made, at least I think.
It was made in 1996. The book it was based on was in 1993, and it's supposed to take place like somewhere between the late 80s and early 90s. It doesn't really specify. But and it doesn't take place in England. It takes place in Scotland.
Yeah, the Scotland. Well,
yeah. That makes sense since Blondie is playing it, or not a cover of a Blondie song in the club.
But
yeah,
I should say more. It captures a subculture very well, if not a time period, as I was thinking. Definitely captures a subculture very well.
Yeah, that's kind of what took me by surprise too, because I mean, the thing about me and drug movies is I just don't like it when it just plainly says drugs are bad, don't take them. Like, for movies like this and Requiem for a Dream, it explains why people take drugs, and it also explains, like, the effects of it, like, well, the negative, obviously, but it also, like, explores, the need for
their way of thinking.
the causes. Yeah, it shows, the way they think, the way they live. It shows how they get by and how they make it in the world, with this lifestyle. Even though our main character is trying to break out and make a better life for himself.
Now you mentioned him making it, but does he ever have a job in this movie?
Actually, no, he doesn't.
He doesn't?
All the characters. What were you gonna say?
Well, I assume that, like, during the one period where he sort of got away for a while until Sick Boy and the other guy's name I'm blanking on.
There's the idea that you'd expect him to have a job, but I think the only way you actually see him make money is during that brief period, the robbery montage.
Yeah, but before that, when he was living in Scotland with all of his friends, they were all unemployed, and they were staying unemployed to support their habit. Like, you remember earlier in the movie that scene with the job interview?
Yeah.
I remember it. I wasn't sure the point of it at that point.
Okay, the point of the job interview scene was kind of like this. The way they were making money was by living off the government through welfare and fixed payment and stuff. If they had jobs, that would be canceled. So earlier in the movie, when Spud got the job interview, he took some speed so he would be incomprehensible and he wouldn't get the job on purpose. That make any sense?
It does. I should mention, a lot of movies in this type of format, if it's not your standard story-based, rising action, climax type of movie, if it's just more type of day-in-the-life style thing, I generally have a hard time getting into it in the beginning. So, like, the first half hour of any movie like this, I'm more sitting there wondering what the hell until I finally catch on to it. I'm kind of a slow catcher on when it comes to this type of movie.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah, well, yeah, I understand that too. But the thing is, the first 20 minutes is basically like introducing you to these characters. These are the characters. This is what they do. This is what their life is like. This is how they live it. And that's all you need to know. Now, onto the story.
Yeah, it's the obligatory introduction and exposition.
Yeah, because, I mean, there are like 5 scenes in a row that introduce the 5 main characters. Like, this is Renton, and this is what it's like in his life. This is Spud.
But part of it was like instructions on how to properly go into a high, and you expect those scenes to go somewhere. At least the way I look at movies, I expect those scenes to go somewhere, and they really don't.
I think that was more just going into their way of thinking and why they enjoyed it so much, why they wanted to stick with this lifestyle, not improve themselves. This is how addicting it is. This is why we can't stop. So.
Yeah, and of course the drugs only play a part of it. I mean, and it's also because even though they're really good friends, in reality they're all just a bunch of enablers, and they're really just bad for each other. But the truth of the matter is that they're all that they have, since they're pretty much the only friends that each other have. And each character does have like their own vice. Like Renton, like I mentioned earlier, the main protagonist, Ewan McGregor's character. He is actually trying to break free and like start his life anew and choose life, as he said in the beginning of the movie. But it's not just the allure of the drugs. It's because of the influence of his friends. It's because he's been with his friends Sick Boy, Begbie, and Spuds for so long that he doesn't know anything else. He doesn't. Yeah.
And of course, the only time he can actually get away from that and the drugs is when he gets away from his friends. So that's definitely true.
But then they follow him there.
Yeah. They're not going to let him go that easily.
And like I said earlier, each one has their own vices. Like Sick Boy, for example, he's always like trying to look for a scam and always trying to look for a quick a way to make a quick buck, which even though he's not very good at it. And then there's Begbie, who doesn't take heroin like the rest of the characters, well, except for Tommy, but he has his own addiction of his own. He's addicted to violence. He's addicted to anger. He gets a thrill off of causing chaos.
Yes,
It's basically just a ball of rage.
Yes, specifically they say his addiction is the results of the rage and violence, not the rage and violence itself. Being the cause of it, basically.
Yeah, so, I mean, he throws the glass off a balcony just to see how big of a riot it would cause.
Yeah. Well, should we go into anything else in the movie that he does?
Yeah. And then there's Spud. Like, Spud, I actually kind of like Spud. He's sort of my favorite character. I mean, he's not like the others. He's not in it for the money. He's kind of dumb. He's not the brightest match in the box.
I think he's one of the ones that had a better heart, but he was just definitely brought down by the drugs and, like you said, kind of stupid. If it wasn't for the drugs, he's not a bad person. He's just fallen victim to the drugs.
Yeah, he's just a good guy who decided to hang out with the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Renton recognized that. You saw that by the end when he left him the money. So.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
And what about Tommy? Like Begbie, he doesn't take drugs either, but he's always been like attracted to the idea of it, and when he does eventually take it, he falls hardest.
It didn't seem like he was ever really attracted to the idea of it. In fact, he liked being free from that. They were still his friends, but he didn't want to fall victim to that. It was only when he was at a really low point in his life where he just sort of gave up and finally gave into the drugs.
Which was caused by his friends on the drugs.
Yeah, I mean, for the first half of the movie, he was kind of like the one sober guy at a party. Yeah. But once he eventually did do it, he just like crashed and burned. Like I said earlier, they've developed a lifestyle all around their heroin usage, and they've managed to not to fall as hard, and they've been able to go for a very long time without like catching any viruses or anything. But when Tommy does catch it, he contracts HIV. He loses everything.
Mm-hmm.
He just shoots right.
Yeah, everyone else knows how to do it without dying instantly.
Yeah, I mean, because they've been doing it for a really long time. I mean, Tommy just shoots up once and he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything to add, Bill?
That, I don't think I really have anything to add to that.
I did find that whole plot with
him.
What do you mean? Well, I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say that I did find that whole plot with him pretty sad, actually. One of the sadder points of the whole movie, in fact. Because, he was so strong before, and he never gave into it. He was so sober, and then his whole life just fell apart.
Actually, yeah, I was kind of expecting there to be a comedy twist sort of thing, where it's like, he has his girlfriend breaks up with him because of the missing tape, and it's like, I was kept expecting his friends to turn around and be like, oh, you mean this tape?
Yeah. Yeah, but that would have I think that probably just would have made things worse. But yeah, one of the other things I really like about this movie, you just don't know, when something happens, you don't know if the result is going to be comedic or dramatic. Like, the result with the missing tape, like, before that, all the friends go out to a club, and at that night, three of them they all decide to get laid, and it doesn't turn out well for any of them. Like, well, for Tommy, obviously, because he found out his tape was missing, which was kind of Renton's fault, and inadvertently led to. Yeah, it was, and it inadvertently led to his downfall. Mm-hmm. And with Renton, he found out the girl that he went home with was 14 years old. But
did they say her age?
I don't think they ever said her age, but it was implied that she was, around 15. So.
Well, she's in high school age.
Yeah,
She's
I
high
was
school
like,
age.
they said underage, but I'm assuming, like, looking by the fact that she's obviously played by an over 18 actor, I was thinking more something toward like 16, 17, where this type of thing would kind of make sense.
I've always just thought of her
Well,
as
here's
15,
the thing. I mean,
but
he doesn't realize. Well, he doesn't really realize that she's too young until he sees her in her school uniform. And when she's wearing that, she looks several years younger than she did in her party dress when you first saw her.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Of course, we know she's played by an over 18 actor because she shows skin, but
Duh. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is fictional.
I think
The
they would have
fictional
gotten
characters we're
in
talking
quite a
about.
bit of trouble if they had actually gotten a 15-year-old girl to play her, so.
You think? And think about it. How many teenage characters in movies and TV are actually played by actual teenagers?
Mm-hmm. Let's just take Grease as an example. We don't even need to get into that. We just
Yeah.
I think one of them was like
Yeah.
what, 33?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this movie is pretty much equal parts comedy and drama. They do that really well.
Yeah.
I didn't really see, like, there are things that, depending on your sense of humor, you could take as comedic, but I didn't really see, like, we were talking a little bit about, about it last night, about the difference between this and a sitcom, to the point where there are things that you could possibly, and then again, I wasn't exactly in a happy mind state going into this, but there are things that you could potentially see comedy in, but I didn't really see anything that was actually straight up funny about the movie.
Yeah, like I burst out laughing the first time I saw the scene with the bed sheets.
Oh
yeah.
Yes, let's talk about the scene.
Oh.
Tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Let's just say
he got castrated in that scene, didn't he?
no, he didn't.
Wait, he what?
Shot himself.
Didn't he reach under the sheet and come out with blood on his hands?
I actually thought that,
No, that
the
was
first
poop.
time. Yeah, I thought that the first
granted,
time, Bill, because
yeah,
it did
me
kind
too.
of look
Coming
like
from
that
a-
on his
this is
hands, but
This
it wasn't.
This is coming from a slasher lover, but still, I saw him pull out what looked like blood on his hands from a wet spot. Then he goes down and she's eating a hot dog, which is pretty much confirmation in my mind, thinking that's what happened.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the night before that scene, he got so drunk, his girlfriend decided to take her home to have sex with him, and they haven't had sex in a few weeks. But he was so drunk that he blacked out when they got to her.
That's what I mean. I thought she got pissed off and castrated him for being too drunk to follow through.
No.
Yeah, but cutting off his dick?
That's a bit harsh.
Yeah.
It is harsh,
Just a
but it's a
little
movie.
harsh.
It is to be expected in a movie.
No, honestly, it did
Yeah,
look
but-
like, it still looked like blood. Like, that was when I first saw it the other day. I knew it wasn't, but it did look like that on his hands. But it's definitely confirmed that it's not blood when
Well, I mean,
he's at
there's
the table
definitely
and that
that's-
happens.
What happened afterward is what raised the question, made me wonder, wait, did I see what I think I saw? But it's kind of mixed messages to the point where there could be all kinds of bodily fluids in those sheets.
Honestly,
It's
though,
like,
if
it
he
could
had
be
been
everything.
if he had been castrated, though, I think he would have been in a lot more pain. So I think we can count that out anyway.
I mean, if that happened to you, I don't think your first result would be to cover it up in the sheet and show it to her. I think your first would to scream like, no.
Yeah.
And besides, how would you be able to sleep through that?
Well, if you
Even if you
consume
are
enough-
drunk.
if you consume enough alcohol, you can sleep through anything.
Oh, I don't know if you could sleep through castration.
Nope.
Considering how many people die just because they're too drunk to wake up when they're throwing up, I think
Yeah,
you
that's-
sleep through a lot.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah, that's
necessarily
true.
painful, though. That's choking. Like, castration, that would be painful. A lot
It's
more painful
more
than choking.
You have no room to talk, Opal.
No, maybe not, but I can still
Look at this
understand
way.
that it would be painful as hell.
It would be painful, but it would not be as painful as it could be because, remember, he can't get hard because he's too drunk. So
Oh, yeah, that's right.
there would be a bit of dimming in the actual amount of pain because of that. Plus, alcohol numbs the pain. Plus, alcohol makes you sleepy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the alcohol pretty much is the cause of all of the dilemmas involved there. But the end result is, I think it would be possible.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, but thank God it wasn't. So
that's the thing. I don't think we know for sure. That I think it sends kind of mixed messages to the point, that it's open to interpretation. Especially that whole hot dog thing when he walked down the stairs. To me, that's what clenched the idea that yes, that's what happened.
Funnily enough, I never even noticed the hot dog thing. 'Cause, I noticed that she was eating it, but I never made that connection. Maybe it's just because I'm not a guy. I don't know.
It never crossed my mind, but I do remember when I first saw that, when he saw the shit on his fingers, I was like, is that blood?
Yeah.
But that never crossed my mind at all.
How could it, thinking that it's blood, how could that not cross, where else could blood come in that situation?
I didn't know if it was blood, but I wasn't sure what it was. I knew it was some kind of blood, some sort of body fluid, but I didn't know if it was blood or feces.
I assumed the first time I saw it that if it was blood, then there had been some sort of accident or something.
Let me put it this way. The second time when it splatters all over the room, it's pretty clear what it is, that it's shit.
Mm-hmm.
The first time, the fact that we all looked at it and said, is that blood, compared to the other time, which it's very clearly a different color, makes me think that it's two different fluids there.
No, I think that was more of just an inconsistency than anything.
Yeah.
Or then maybe just making us wonder on purpose the first time, is it blood or...
leaving it open for interpretation.
Yeah, they left it open for interpretation at that point, but afterwards, at the table, they confirmed that it wasn't blood or anything. So that's what makes me think, no, it can't be castration at this point.
But then again, at the table, she's eating a hot dog. They want the character. Which one was it? Was it Spud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want Spud and they want the viewer both to be thinking penis when he walks down the stairs holding the sheets.
I think they wanted the viewers to think at that point more that she was just still pissed at him.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty clear.
Clear. It's just looking at, she's pissed at him. She's like, yes, I slept on the couch playing it down. That makes me think she's already enacted her revenge.
You have a sick mind, Billy.
Yeah, I was just thinking, wow, you would be a scary woman.
This is coming from the mindset of someone who
would be a scary woman.
No.
But this is Trainspotting we're talking about.
I would be
shit on your grave. This is Trainspotting we're talking about.
I have a slasher movie mentality. Pieces is the general default state of mind I have going into a new movie. So
you knew this, but this wasn't a slasher, right?
I knew that once it started. I had no idea what the genre or what it was about until I started it. The posters that I found online certainly did nothing to tell me what it was about.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was based on a novel.
Yeah. So, I can't believe we had a 10-minute conversation about this.
I know, wow. Where did this go?
Well, so much for this going smoothly. All right, let's talk about another freaky scene. The baby.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Oh. I would assume that we're to think that the baby OD'd, but the baby was in its crib.
No,
so
I think the baby starved, and they were just so high for so long that it started rotting, basically.
Yeah, it's heavily implied that it was either starvation or neglect that killed it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Something like it was like just a scene before a scene or two before we see the baby crawling around while they're getting high.
Yeah, but some time also passes.
Yeah, but they're so hopped up that they don't even notice her.
Yeah. Well, whoever put the baby in the crib, you'd think fed her.
Well, not necessarily. Yeah. You could just put the baby in the crib. Even if they fed it when they put it in the crib, they could have forgotten after that.
Yeah, that's true. This is definitely the type of movie where more time passes between scenes than you can tell just by guessing, unless they actually say so. It's not, as sequential as you might expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there are a lot of times where a lot of time passes between certain scenes and we're just not explicitly told.
Yeah, but either way, it's still a really messed up scene.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the more intense withdrawal scenes I've seen in general. At least if we're... Well, I mean, we'll get onto that more later, but that involved the baby, so...
Okay. I have sat through Requiem for a Dream all the way through numerous times. And yes, that was really intense. I was like curled up in a ball watching that. But that one scene, when you hear the mother like crying hysterically, I just knew, oh shit, what happened? And then
you know
see
the only
baby.
thing that could warrant that reaction from a mother, even a drug addict mother, would be in that setting that.
Yeah, of course.
Well, yeah, it was a little dulled for me because, like I said, early in the movie, I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. So after they just finished the robbery montage, I'm sitting there, I'm like, she's screaming. First, I thought she was screaming, "Why are you in my house?" or something like that. And then they showed the baby, and I'm like, oh, this is the place they were getting high that had the baby crawling around.
Yeah, well, like I said before, the movie switches moods at such a fast pace that you don't know if the next scene is going to be comedic, intense, scary, or what.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's a comedy.
Like
now there's a dead baby.
And it's crawling on the ceiling. Oh my God, that freaked me out more than.
Oh yeah, that's supposed to freak you out. It's heroin withdrawal. It's like.
Yeah, that entire.
I've never been a heroin addict, but it's up there with crack, so it's going to be fucked up going through withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that entire scene in general, where he's just locked up in his room and his parents are forcing him to go cold turkey. That one is pretty much takes all the intensity of Requiem for a Dream and just compacts it into one 10-minute scene.
Yeah, that is a very, very well done scene.
Although the one. I would say that what stuck out to me the most in that scene, because once I knew what was happening, I kind of understood, that freaky shit would be going on. But then that's when I got into the idea that the girl from earlier on is actually going to be in the movie again. Like I thought, I had been kind of wondering after the blackmail attempt if we were going to see her face again. And of course, we'd later see her. He's writing her a letter. She's writing him a letter. That's it.
You are seriously fixated on that scene, aren't you? You have a problem, man. Oh, but another thing we mentioned, when they find out that the baby is dead, Renton says that nobody knew who the father was, but when she died, Sick Boy knew right away that it was hers. And let me just say this right off the bat. I did not like Sick Boy. Sick Boy is an asshole.
He was an asshole, but I think he was supposed to be. So, I mean, I didn't mind his character that terribly much.
Yeah, but I think he's it's his arrogance that really throws me off. He tries to quit at the same time that Renton does, not because he wants to, but to prove that he can do it and do it better. It's his smug arrogance combined with his competitive nature that just kind of turns me off about him. His whole nature, it didn't make me like him, but it made him, at least for me, one of the more entertaining characters of the movie. I mean, he was entertaining, but in terms of morale, I just...
Oh, he was a terrible person.
Don't like him.
He was a terrible person, but he was entertaining in a movie.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but I'm just saying in that sense. I'm just putting it out on the record of the 5 main characters. Sick Boy is my least favorite. But where was I? Yeah, the baby. When he found out that the baby was his, he started breaking down and crying too. And it did actually show that there was a little more to him. But even though, like I said, he's like probably the biggest asshole in the whole movie, and later on he's just out there to just make his life worse for Renton. And what's your stance on this, Bill? On Sick Boy?
Well, I didn't really get to know him in terms of distinguishing him as a character until pretty much the end, after narrator had basically turned around and said, Sick Boy is a pimp and a pusher, and then he turns around and starts trying to push him into doing this drug deal. I'm just like, yeah, he's an asshole. And that's pretty much all I ever thought to him. But like you mentioned,
but the thing,
like you mentioned him discovering he was a father and everything. I always wondered at that scene. I don't know if this is supposed to be a kind of comedic type of thing, or if there was actually supposed to be a reason behind this. But it's like,
well, the thing is, throughout the movie, Sick Boy has been developed as kind of this womanizer, this ladies' man. Like when you see him at the club, he's like talking to two women at the same time. And I think Renton said that he didn't officially become a pimp until after he moved away.
Right.
But he has always had a way with women, and I'm pretty sure he's had sex with tons of them.
Oh, yeah.
So it does make sense that he's the father.
No, but what I meant about making sense, nobody says anything. The narrator starts saying, then he narrates that he wishes he could had something to say, and then Sick Boy.
Well, what are they supposed to say? They're in front of a dead baby.
Huh? Well,
what are they supposed to say? They're standing there in front of a dead baby. They're in shock.
That's why I'm wondering why he specifically yells at the narrator to say something, or the main character guy.
Renton, yeah.
Well, I thought he called him Mark in that scene.
That's so random.
Renton is his
Mark.
No, his full name is Mark Renton. They just refer to him by his last
really?
name.
Okay.
I never heard him referred to in any scene outside of that one. I thought. No, I heard him called Mark in a couple of other scenes.
Huh.
But,
no, his parents call him Mark. There have been a few scenes where he's called Mark. He's called Mark by his parents and by his girlfriend. There have been times where he referred to himself as his full name.
Oh.
But among his friends, he's just Renton.
I don't know if it's just me. It was hard for me to figure out what his friends were saying half of the time.
What?
Who
was
speaking
saying?
in Dick Sculptor's...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the accents were one slightly difficult
I think
part
in
of
a
the
couple
whole
scenes
movie.
it was intentional. Like that catchphrase that the guy with the knife liked to spout. I'm pretty sure we weren't supposed to know what that said. But a few times it was just like, I'm trying hard to figure out what they're saying.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And like during the job interview with Spud, I think that was also another part where we weren't really supposed to be.
But that's the thing. I understood him better in that
on
scene than I understood them when they were talking as a group.
Yeah, but you said with the job interview,
well, yeah, that's what I mean.
He was supposed to be.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That was one of the parts where we weren't supposed to understand completely everything he was saying. But even the times where we weren't like that, where it was intentional, there were other times where it was unintentional, but it was still really difficult.
Yeah. So,
so much so that I was actually tempted to turn
but
up
the whole
subtitles
thing is,
when I was watching it the last time, and I really never do that for movies. So.
I tried to, but Netflix did not offer subtitles for this movie, and I was kind of...
man, that sucks, especially considering you always watch movies with subtitles. You must have hated this.
I usually watch DVDs with subtitles on, for that reason.
This was a bad movie to not have the option for subtitles for in that case.
But, yeah, I never watched the movie with subtitles, but it took me a couple watches to really understand what everybody was saying.
Now, when you say never, does that mean you don't watch foreign films, or that you just have a...
No, I mean, I watch foreign... I mean, of course I watch foreign films with subtitles. I'm just talking about, like...
Okay. I was going to say, like, you must have a really bad time watching Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh, no.
Or a lot of languages.
No, I don't.
Well,
that's not what I meant.
he is an animated feature reviewer, so he probably knows Japanese, French, one or two other languages. Let's just pile on the assumptions here.
Quick, Ray, whip out a sentence, a long sentence in German. I want it now.
Okay, all right, let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
If a movie is in English, I don't need to watch it in subtitles because I speak English. I was never really tempted to watch Trainspotting with subtitles, even though I couldn't understand their accent. Does that make it better?
Yes. I suppose it does.
What's the name of the guy with the knife?
Begbie.
I'm looking him up on IMDb to see if I can figure out his catchphrase thing that he said a couple of times. But they actually have no quotes for him. So.
I never really had noticed that. I never really had noticed the other catchphrase.
Well,
honestly,
he said it like,
I haven't either.
I thought it was supposed to be a catchphrase. Like, he said it once, and then they said something about he likes to say that, and then he said it again. And all I knew is it included the word cunt twice. But other than that, I had no idea what he was saying.
Yeah, but the thing, I mean, and I do remember a couple of times he said something about cigarettes, but it never really crossed my mind.
I think those things were just general.
Like
yeah, I think those things were just general insults, and a person like him would insult people a lot, so it wouldn't necessarily have to be his catchphrase. He's just consistently insulting.
Yeah. Yeah, and besides, it's in Scotland. They drop that word like it's no big deal.
A signature move, if you will, when it comes to insults, then, if not a catchphrase, which I would consider the same. But
yeah, but in the UK, they do have a much different way of swearing that would be considered really unacceptable here. But we're getting off topic. So, since you did mention Begbie, he is another really interesting character that I do kind of have a sort of similar similar reaction that I did with Sick Boy. I mean, he's not a great character, but goddamn is he fun to watch.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, like we mentioned earlier, he has this addiction to anger and violence and just causing chaos. And he's the one character where you think, like, why does he hang out with this guy if all he ever does is cause trouble? I mean, of course, they're all troublemakers themselves, but whenever he's around, he just turns the area into a war zone.
Yeah, I definitely found him the most entertaining to watch myself because, as we've already established, as a slasher fan and things, like, obviously he's not a slasher character, but the things he gets into are sort of entertaining in that same sort of way. The blood flying, you never know what's going to happen. The one he smashes the person's bloody face against the bar or whatever. Yeah, and, he is the person among the main five who is, definitely the most likely to actually kill somebody.
Oh yeah, he probably has before. So
most definitely.
Yeah, and they've all gone on record several times that one phrase that I have seen come up a lot is that most of the characters have said is that Begbie's a fucking psycho, but he's a mate. I mean, I think the main reason they hang out with him is, like I said earlier, these people have known each other for a very long time, and they're all that they have. So it would just be like turning your back on like this childhood friend that you've known since you were like really young.
Even if your childhood friend is an absolutely horrible person who kills people.
That, or they don't want to get on his bad side.
Yeah, I think that could be it too.
I was just gonna say it's more loyalty than anything. That's what I was trying to imply. But
they don't want.
But they are also afraid of
cut them.
Yeah. I mean, it's part loyalty and part fear of getting murdered.
Because, like, at the end, when certain things happen and he's trashing the room, I think he would have definitely killed Renton had he been able to.
Yeah. That actually does bring up a subject that I've wanted to debate about. I did find out while doing research that Danny Boyle does want to make a sequel to Trainspotting.
Yeah.
And here's my reason of, like, A, why it could work, and B, why it might not happen. It could work because there was actually a sequel to the book called Porno, and it takes place 10 years after the events of Trainspotting. Sick Boy is into the porn industry, and Begbie has just gotten out of jail. And I think the plot is they run into Renton again, and they try to come up with this scheme to get back at him for ripping them off at the end of the movie.
That's called the last 10 minutes of Clockwork Orange. That's what the last 10 minutes of Clockwork Orange are about.
Or more like the last 30 minutes, but whatever.
Is it? It seems shorter to me, but I only watched it once, so.
Yeah. So, and the reason it couldn't happen is, Danny Boyle has been trying to get it made, but he only wants to get it done if all of the original cast is on board with it. And most of the people, like Robert Carlyle and Ewan Bremner, are totally on board with it. But the one person he's having a hard time getting on board is Ewan McGregor, because
Qui-Gon Jinn has gotten quite famous.
Yeah. Well, A, it's his fame, and B, their friendship has kind of deteriorated a few years after Trainspotting. So,
really?
And he has gone on that saying that making a sequel to Trainspotting would just be a bad idea.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I guess I hadn't heard that their friendship had deteriorated at all, but in that case it makes sense, because I was going to say Ewan McGregor has been in so many of Danny Boyle's movies. He's like a favorite of Danny Boyle's, that if only for personal reasons, it seems like he would be in it.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I don't really know the full story, but from what I heard, their friendship kind of deteriorated because Ewan McGregor was upset that he didn't get cast in The Beach.
Oh.
That's pretty much the stem from it. That's pretty much the root of the cause. I don't really know all the details or really care, but you know what? If they do actually make this, I would be interested in seeing it.
Oh, I definitely
just to
would,
see how it turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had heard that that Danny Boyle did want to make a sequel. I remember hearing years ago that he did want to wait until basically the same amount of time in real life had passed as between the two books, just so that everyone who was in the first movie could actually look the ages they were supposed to, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think this movie definitely proves just how diverse Danny Boyle can be with what he directs and what he does. So you've only seen, Graham, you said you'd only seen Slumdog Millionaire other than this, as far as Danny Boyle goes? What about you, Bill?
Yeah.
I'm IMDbing him as we speak.
Okay.
He did this, he did 28 Days Later, he did 127 Hours.
Mm-hmm. Millions.
He did other stuff.
This is the only movie of his that I've seen.
Yeah.
Okay.
You haven't even seen the 28 series? Oh my god, Bill. God.
I was just gonna say, turn in your horror card right now, man.
I'm not
a huge zombie guy. If you want zombies, I usually turn to just Derailer for his zombie expertise. Well, at least I did. I haven't heard from him in a while, but I've never... let's see. I could probably count the zombie films I've seen on one hand. Night of the Living Dead, the Dawn of the Dead remake, the Night of the Living Dead remake.
You said that 3 times.
I think that's about all of them.
You said,
Wait a minute, didn't you do a review of Zombieland like a year ago or something?
No, that was you're probably thinking Gary's.
Yeah.
Shadow.
I think Shadow did
that.
But,
Mm-hmm.
I think once again we're getting way off topic.
That seems to be a pattern with this particular one.
Yeah. Let's see. Castration, zombie movies. I don't know. Next, let's talk about...
They're all on topic, though. They're all related to what we're discussing.
This movie has nothing to do with castration, Bill.
Yes, it does.
He was not castrated. Get that out of your mind.
Prove it. Wait, no, please don't prove it. Please don't prove it.
Oh my god.
I'll have to look at the book and see what happens.
I
Yeah.
sincerely apologize to anybody who has had the patience to make it this far. You are very brave. And I promise we will try to make up for any brain cells you might have lost in our next one.
So, but I'm actually with Bill here. I'm curious to read the book now. Have you read it, Graham?
No, I haven't. I mean, I have found some, like when I was doing some research, I looked it up on Wikipedia, and I saw some differences in there. Like there are
Any
certain
major
characters that were some major, some minor. Like there are certain characters that were taken out of the book, but they weren't really that important. There's like the whole movie is done from Renton's point of view, but in the book, the POV character constantly jumps back and forth. Like you'll have one chapter that's about Renton, you'll have one chapter that's about Spud.
So it was even more Tarantino-esque in the book than it was in the movie.
I guess you could say that. I was going to compare it to the Song of Ice and Fire series, how it keeps changing points of view.
So, Bill, I know you mentioned this last night, but, I mean, how exactly do you see this as a very Tarantino-esque movie?
Just the way that, I guess you could say the way it was written and edited, the way it cuts from scene to scene, the way they'll sometimes have the multiple scenes. Well, actually, I don't know if the multiple scenes going on at the same time actually reminds me of Tarantino or somebody else that just has similarities.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the fact that it's how do I put that? I'm trying to put this into words without.
It came out like in the mid '90s. Like this was like right after Pulp Fiction came out, and everybody was like trying to copy the Tarantino style because there was nobody ever really saw anything quite like it.
Definitely Pulp Fiction, and I would say probably Inglourious Basterds, just because it's cut and edited. You know, it's edited and written very similar to Pulp Fiction, and the way in the way it goes from scene to scene, the way the sequential story goes.
Yeah.
I think I can see where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, but I mean, but this one does have a more congruent story than most of Tarantino's work.
That's true. It doesn't have the stepping backward so much.
Yeah, it progresses forward. It just does it in a more chaotic and haphazard manner, which fits with the theme of drugs and junkies and stuff.
Yeah. So one thing I really want to bring up about this movie, and one of my favorite things about it, is the soundtrack. I absolutely love the soundtrack of this.
Yeah, the soundtrack is pretty amazing, and it actually does reflect drugs in another way, because this is a lot of the music involved with it is involved with drug culture, because on one hand we have like a lot of music by the likes of Iggy Pop and Lou Reed and those kind of people, which were associated with like the New York punk scene, which was in certain respects involved with heroin and other hard drugs like that. And on the other hand, we have like techno and electronica scene music in its early stages. We have artists like we have a bunch of artists of that kind. Like we have Moby and that kind of thing. I think Massive Attack was on there, which is highly associated with drugs like cocaine and ecstasy and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it definitely fits with the themes and the mood and that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a Blur and a Damon Albarn song on there, and that makes me happy. But, yeah.
Blur fan?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right, I'm looking at the soundtrack. We have, I'm just going to list out the artists. We have Iggy Pop. We have Jorge Bizet. We have Brian Eno. Primal Screen. Heaven 17. Sleeper. New Order. Iggy Pop again. Blur. Lou Reed. Underworld. Pulp. This one doesn't have one. Elastica. Left Field, and Damon Albarn. And I mean, I only recognize half of these, but I know some of these are from like our British rock bands, which are kind of like there's some bands on there that are like Pulp and Elastica, which are kind of like precursors to bands like the Arctic Monkeys and Franz Ferdinand, and their music in one way or another are kind of associated with drug scenes like cocaine and ecstasy, like I mentioned earlier.
I think I know probably even less of the people on the soundtrack than you do, so...
It helps to be the music guy.
Yeah. From now on, I'm just going to be like, there's a band I don't know, I'm going to ask Graham how they are.
I will be your guru. When you are done with me, you will know all.
Exactly.
So,
well, I honestly didn't really, which it's probably, well, obviously the best soundtracks are noticed, but I think it's usually a very good sign when you're watching a movie, you know, unless you're paying 100% attention to the movie and you don't notice the soundtrack as much, just because that means that there's nothing jarring. You know, it all fits in the scenes, because if it didn't fit, you would notice and it would jar you out. You know,
no,
and everything.
I don't necessarily agree with that, though, because if you don't notice the soundtrack, then that tends to mean it's more boring than anything and not really noteworthy.
Yeah, of course.
Like, the scene, also, weirdly enough, one of my favorite scenes of the movie, the scene where Renton has this sort of fantasy about diving into the toilet to get his pills.
I can't believe we gone this long without talking about that scene.
I love that scene, and the music just makes it, the whole scene. It wouldn't be the same without the song. So I definitely would not have enjoyed that as much if I hadn't noticed that song.
But it fit in the context, because afterward, I can't remember it. I do know at the time, yes, it very much worked for that scene, but it doesn't stand out to me as something, after the fact, be like, why did they play that? Because it made sense that they played it. It's just, it's not John Williams to the point where it's, where it would be noteworthy and memorable for years after the fact.
Are you saying that Iggy Pop isn't noteworthy or memorable?
None of the movie,
Answer carefully, Bill.
Stayed in my mind. I'll leave it at that. I do not remember any of the music in the movie.
I disagree with you so much.
So much.
I do. It worked for the scenes it was in, but without those scenes, nothing comes to me.
Yeah, but actually, Iggy Pop appearing on the soundtrack did kind of revive his career a bit. Like Lust for Life, the scene that they played in the beginning of the movie when they're being chased around, that kind of became a big revival hit. And I do love the soundtrack solely because Iggy Pop is on there. If Iggy Pop is on there, I am sold.
And for me,
which is why I.
Sorry, go on.
No, I wasn't gonna say anything.
I was just gonna say, for me, Iggy Pop wasn't even the highlight of the whole soundtrack. It was even just the other songs, like the techno / electronica type music on there.
Yeah,
that
like
I really enjoyed.
Yeah, like there was this particular techno song that was like playing during the cold turkey scene. Like it was starting off very quietly and it started pulsating and building up momentum as it got more and more intense. And by the time the baby was on the ceiling and looking down straight on him, it was just like starting to blare, and it was like at full momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was used really expertly.
Just for the sake of context, I don't exactly remember, since I did mention John Williams, a bit of a disclaimer, I don't exactly remember things like the Princess Leia theme or the Yoda theme either. It's really only the most iconic, usually theme songs and things that actually stick out to me when it comes to, unless horror is a little different because everything has a lot more of my attention than it does in your average movie. But otherwise, there's
for me, a soundtrack is one of the most important things in a movie because that makes or breaks the mood in some cases.
It is.
True.
But if it makes the mood, then you're going to remember the mood. You're going to remember the scene. If it breaks the mood, that's when you remember that song was really out of place.
Which is exactly why a good soundtrack really is just great.
Yeah, and a lot of the songs in here did set the mood.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's what I mean. You remember the mood, you remember the scene, and therefore you may not
remember the music
itself as much.
Okay. I mean, I understand where you're going with this, but we'll just have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And like I said, I definitely get what you're saying because, like, I can definitely, like, if someone starts playing the music from Pieces, from Friday the 13th, I'll be there. But for the average movie, it has to be one of the the top, the 99th percentile of soundtrack music in order to stick out at me that way.
Okay. So how about that toilet scene? What's up with that?
Yeah.
I guess what I think is they were setting the precedent early on. This is what the special effects in this movie are like. There's it's obviously not 100% realistic, but it's not goofy and stupid CGI or even animatronics either.
I don't think it really had anything to do with... They weren't really making any statement about the special effects, though, because that really wasn't reliant at all on special effects, except for him, going into and coming out of the toilet, and that wasn't really anything.
Well, to me, the big shock about it is we're watching this realistic movie, everything makes sense, and then all of a sudden he obviously does this impossible thing of, being stuck halfway out of the toilet.
Well, I think the thing with that is he it was so nasty. The idea of him reaching so far into the toilet just to get these things because he had to get this fixed that his mind sort of escaped into this much better fantasy than he had to deal with in reality just so he could get his drugs.
Yeah, that does make sense.
That definitely, like, I was looking at it basically from a strictly visual kind of aesthetic, just looking at that scene. Like, I understood what was happening, but I was more looking at the visuals of the movie. This is what kind of, the special effects are more creative, they're less expected, and I think the only other time we see special effects, that are, that you could definitely say these are special effects as compared to just being lighting effects or whatever. But
they're not like
the scene where they're tripping and they like sink into the carpet or whatever. I think that's the only other effect scene like that, and I think the one sets the precedent for the other, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean the effects are very impressive for their scene, but they're not like throwing it at your face like a lot of movies.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any point in the movie where it relies on any sort of special effects. Even the withdrawals.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think...
I can think of three.
The toilet... I don't think it would have been as iconic and memorable a scene if it weren't for that effect shot, or those two effect shots of him halfway in the toilet.
Yeah. I mean, I can think of three scenes where they notably use special effects. The toilet scene, the scene where he overdoses and sinks into the carpet, and the one with the baby crawling on the ceiling.
Yeah, the baby being the exorcist.
I would make that more general and just say the withdrawal scene overall, because remember there's a part where like the whole room is elongated and stretched out, and that's
true.
Basically that whole scene.
Yeah, it's true. The special effects are subtle enough to the point where they don't pop in your mind. These are the special effects. It's not stupid CGI. It's not obvious animatronics. It's just...
They did as much as they needed to. They did the bare minimum, and it worked.
Yeah. And they could have done it without any effects, but I think they did just the amount to get the point across that they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, final verdict?
Bill, I'll let you go first.
Oh yeah, Well, I mentioned to Opal a little bit about this. If every movie I watched was like this, I think I would turn in my reviewer badge. Not because I couldn't stand watching it, but because trying to sit down and do a review or a score or something is extremely
Beyond you?
difficult for this kind of movie.
Yeah.
So I would probably have to watch it a few times and think really hard, and even then, I don't think I could settle on something.
Mm-hmm.
But overall,
But-
did you like it?
Overall, did I like it? That's where I think, and I'm sure I'm going to get cyber slapped for this. I think I'm going to say 6 out of 10, slightly above average, because there are
I am bad. Yeah, I'm gonna cyber
there are
slap you
times
too. You
when I was
better be
definitely
sure.
apathetic. Well, actually, you know what? I think I'm going to up that to a 7 just for the visual aesthetic of it, because
Okay.
that was very extraordinarily well done.
I'll
But
settle for that.
That's better.
But,
Time.
yeah.
there are definitely times the structure of the story was one that I'm apathetic to from the get-go. The characters themselves, there were times I was apathetic. There were times I really cared. So altogether, I think I'm going to say 7 out of 10 as a
All right.
Fair enough.
That's better.
Fair enough. Yeah.
All right.
Definitely not something that to me would be an 8, just because that type of story structure is not good enough for that to me. But I think the directing and everything merits more than a 6.
Yeah, I think everything combined, the directing, the acting, the story, the writing, the way it could be a total comedy and pretty funny at some points, and then absolutely dramatic and just heart-wrenching the next minute. It's a fantastic movie. It's still one of my favorites, and it has been for years. So I would give it probably an 8.5. Yes, I'm going to use halves here.
So is that an 8 or a 9 if you were making a post on the site?
I don't know. That would be tricky. Just because it's really tough for me to give a movie a 9. Not that some don't deserve it, but just because that's usually reserved for, say, my top 3 or 5 movies. And even though this is one of my favorites, I wouldn't necessarily put it in my top 3 or 5.
My final verdict: great movie, 8 out of 10. Go see it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Short and to the point.
All
that
right,
works.
All right. Well, this has been really fun. Congratulations to any of you who have made it this far. You have survived and may possibly be brain dead.
Yeah. Good
Your
job.
HMO does not cover it. So join us next time when we review another movie.